Well, good evening, Star Wars fan. Looks like I have a little bit of an issue going here. Give me 1 second. Isn't the Discord up? Stand by for just
Okay.
1 second. Okay.
I'll type in the Slack that we're just.
Yeah, something. Oh,
Yeah, I'm like really. Slack's really slow too.
oh, there we go. Okay, sorry about that, everyone. The streaming server, OBS, something happened to it last night from between last night and the other night. So, yeah, we're actually good to go now. So, how is everyone doing? Oh, thank you, Matt, for subscribing.
All right, Matt's the new subscriber.
Matt is our
Let's
new
go.
subscriber.
Thank you for the sub, Matt.
Well,
Sperling.
you got to show up to a new space and do it the right way. Yeah, let's do
There
it.
it is.
Yeah,
So we're gonna have a great show tonight. We got it rocking. Tech problems are done. We got Matt in the house. Dan is back. Guest host again is me, Justin, and we're gonna have a good show. We got a lot of content. Hopefully, you guys can interact with the chat too. That's been a big hit lately. And we're gonna welcome Matt Sperling. Matt, tell us a little bit about yourself, just on the intro, and then we'll get to some of the juicy stuff and the Star Wars drama, the Monarch Grimtash debate is hot.
We're gonna solve it. We're gonna solve it tonight.
Right.
The exact right balance level for
There it is.
introduction card. No.
But yeah, introduce yourself.
So I'm Matt Sperling. I'm most well known in gaming circles as a Magic the Gathering player who's been playing at the professional level, kind of on and off years. Not a job, but I'm a extreme hobbyist, and I've tried, dive into work and then dive into Magic, and thankfully I don't have kids yet, so I'm still able to kind of make that work for the most part. And sometimes it involves staying up late, but kind of juggling that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've been writing articles for years for Channel Fireball and other websites, and been on many pro teams. I have 3 Pro Tour top 8s, and so that's the yardstick that we use in the pro Magic community. So yeah, just been spending years and years, and so that's kind of how folks know me for the most part. And then my interaction with Star Wars, actually, I've been playing Star Wars since the '90s. I played through the whole Decipher run with only periodic breaks, and wasn't playing tournaments, but was playing a lot, like in a pretty active local scene with some close friends of mine. And so I kind of rode ups and downs of the various metagames over the years. I remember being extremely frustrated that I could not beat this like droids and inserts deck at one point in my Star Wars playing history. And I remember at a different point trying everything I could to beat light side pod racing and could not do it. And so I experienced those frustrations that many other
Sebulba did not always win the pod race.
It was I don't know if other people figured it out. I wasn't able to. Yeah, it didn't work out that way for me.
So when you were playing Star Wars with your friends in the kitchen table, and kind of this was probably high school era for you, or maybe a little college time.
Yeah, thereabouts.
Were you also playing Magic, or were you playing Magic at like the pro level back then?
So my first pro tour was like the year 2000.
Okay.
So I played L5R, Legend of the Five Rings. I played Star Wars. I played Magic, and I played them all. I mean, I'm a pretty obsessive hobbyist and obviously super competitive, so I played them all with a competitive fervor. But Magic was the only one where I had any kind of like breakout tournament success eventually, and it didn't come easy. It took years and years,
Right.
but I kind of stuck with that. And then in the 2000s, I started playing on the Pro Tour, just winning PTQs and that sort of thing.
Right.
Those other 2 games.
Star Wars was already gone back then. By that point, Decipher lost the license, and you probably assumed that it was like many games, that it was just sort of gone and forgotten and done.
I never sold my cards, which is interesting because I sold my Magic collection so many times. I would, I don't know. I always had a sentimental attachment to. I mean, I love Star Wars. I always loved these cards. I could like pull them out of the box and look at them in a way that with a affection that I didn't really have for the Magic cards themselves. I mean, I obviously like Magic cards. I have some that I'm fond of, but I don't know. Star Wars
like,
captured
the
my imagination.
sentimental value of like a specific card and like when you pulled it out of a pack and stuff like that. You might have that for Star Wars. That's cool. Dan, we should so we had canceled the spelling challenge because we didn't realize how much you had played back in the day. So I think we should, Dan, we should do the spelling challenge because I think Matt might. Yeah, Matt.
Okay.
Matt, we should not eliminate the spelling challenge.
Okay, so you know what we should do, Justin? I want you to think of some cards
I'll
as well.
think of some cards.
Yeah, yeah. And
maybe a pod. We might do a pod racer. We'll see. We'll see.
Well, I mean, he said he had issues with light side pods, so
yeah.
I mean, there's only one light side pod.
Is there? Is there not another?
No,
yeah, I
there's
guess
only
it is.
one.
It's only Anakin. He was up against it.
I've been spending a lot of time in the deck building tools. So if I don't remember from back in the day, there's a chance I've seen if it's a relevant card now. But yeah, I don't like my chances in the spelling challenge. Happy to participate.
I don't think we've had many winners.
We've had two.
We've had two. Okay.
We've had two.
I'm only a guest host. So I've only hosted 4 or 5 times. I've yet to see a winner. So maybe tonight.
So I know Taco Bill won. Actually, you did see a winner. Echo Base Trooper. A couple weeks ago.
Did he get it?
Yeah, he got it.
Yeah, it was like Yarnell the Gargan or whatever he got.
Maybe I might have fallen asleep at that point.
I probably couldn't win the say it challenge. If you tell me what the card does and I know the card, I probably won't even pronounce it right.
Right. Well, there are debates on spelling of cards. There's also like the way that they sound based on like regions. I remember like growing up, like our region was New England, and we called it the Akashic region, and we'd all call a card a certain. We call it the same way, and then you'd go to a larger tournament, and you'd see other people, and they had like the completely different pronunciation.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, no, it's called this. Like, no, it's called this.
I say executor. I say executor.
Yeah, wow. Because that's actually a word, and executor's not.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how do you say it, Justin?
We always said executor, and then we got
executor.
annoyed that it wasn't actually a word, and we're like, the executor of a will? Like, come on. They don't ever actually say the name in the movies. No, they call it the flag. Yeah.
I don't even think they call it that. It's just
just the big ship over there. So you've been playing Magic for a long time, and you used to play Star Wars with your friends, but now you're back with sort of a vengeance. And what brought you back to Star Wars? I think we saw a tweet, and then you came back via Jump. But can you talk to us about like just what you and how it's been?
So obviously, like COVID lockdown has us doing all sorts of stuff we maybe wouldn't have done otherwise. I've been who knows? I've been doing all kinds of other stuff, rollerblading, random. I haven't put rollerblades on in 20 years. I rollerbladed around to get some exercise because I can't play basketball or tennis was closed at the time. So in that vein, I mean, they took the Magic events off calendar, and for years now, it's hard for me to play Magic, like just for, I don't know if you're allowed to curse, but just for giggles. Just for giggles.
Everybody's allowed one on our show.
Okay. Well, let's just say just for giggles, it's hard for me to get excited about Magic just because I played it so much and I played competitive, and oftentimes I'm just looking to like prep for the next event.
Right.
And that's mostly what I do. And like, I mean, the events are really fun, and trying hardest to win against other players, trying the hardest to win at the top level is really fun. But just like killing time playing Magic, not really my thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they took events off calendar because of COVID, that created a void, so to speak. And then I found out through a conversation about old games we used to like or whatever. I didn't know that GAMP existed. I didn't know that this community existed, really. It just hadn't shown up on my radar. When it did, I was like super excited, and then like kind of like caught the fever, jumping back in, and it was all of a sudden it was 1997 again or whatever,
Yeah, it's pretty exciting too. I mean, Jump is incredible. I mean, it's amazing that it's web based. It's amazing what it does. It's amazing that all the rules click and everything lights up. And I'm sure from someone who's played Arena and Moto and is active on Twitter and seen all the tweets that say, I was 9-0 and it all of a sudden crashed or the mobs crashed everyone, after game 7 and everyone wasted a Saturday. It's got to be kind of impressive to see, sort of a small group of like rebels.
Oh, it's awesome.
Who has their own program that's just kind of the little engine that could right now that
no, it's awesome.
Really can support everything.
It does. I mean, it does some really cool stuff too that Magic stuff doesn't do. I mean, I can show you my replay of my game, and you can see my hand and walk through it, pause it, talk about the play. I mean, I've wished that Magic had something like that for years. So for something community driven to show up with something like that, super cool. And I've just been like super impressed over and over again with not just the tools and tech, but like the community. Everyone's been super welcoming. The competitive games are awesome. The fun stuff is fun. I mean, yeah. So I've been really impressed with what's going on, and I haven't felt much regret about diving in and spending a bunch of time with y'all.
Yeah, and it seems like you're really playing a lot. I mean, you're not someone who's like, oh yeah, it's cool, nostalgia. I'm gonna play like the cards that I knew about with no virtual cards. I'm gonna jump. Those formats are there on Jump.
Yeah, and
they're actually pretty active and they're pretty vibrant. But you're choosing a different path. You're saying, hey, let me learn about maps, something you haven't. Like you have to learn every single virtual card.
Yeah,
brand
and
new,
I have to learn that's not GAMP, it's JAMP apparently. So I just learned that.
Most people say people say GAMP. It's one of those other.
Okay, it's a GIF. Yeah, it's even the same concept.
Executor. Same concept.
No, but yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, I don't. I know a lot of returning players, very common. I've seen it even in my couple months. You come back and you go shields, screw that, or let me go back and I want to use the original Chewbacca or whatever. Like for me, like I want to find the players who are trying their hardest to win. See if I can find, because that's the whole like levels of casual thing where you try to find someone in a casual game who's on the exact same level of competitive effort that you are, and if you match up perfectly, then you can have a really good game. Otherwise, one person's just crushing the other person while they try to like take the foot off the gas pedal. Like, I don't know what to do in that mode. I always feel like a fish out of water in a casual setting, just because I like that clear objective. You and I both agree instantly. We're both trying to win. Great, we're on the same page. Let's go. Right. So for me, it was a no-brainer. Like open with shields. Let's do it.
Okay,
that's awesome.
So
that's a great approach.
I mean, you mentioned it. You're coming back with the virtual cards. What do you feel about the virtual cards themselves? Like, do you have any issues with them to start off with, or?
Well, I mean, they're really cool. I mean, I really like them in general. I think they're amazingly well designed overall. Like the average quality is just really good, and they're like the old cards that are strong are still strong. The new cards that are strong, and clearly like, they're high power level, but that's for a reason, because what are you gonna do? I mean, Rebel leadership is strong, but guess what? There's a card in Death Star 2 that Dark has that does the same thing. So what are you gonna do? Do I have a few gripes? Of course. Like, should Rescue in the Clouds just be a free look at your top 5 Destiny? Probably not. But those are minor gripes here and there. Overall, I've been pretty impressed.
Okay,
that's cool. I'm gonna try to catch up with the chat. Dan, you want to ask the next question? I'm just gonna cycle through.
So you were talking about this earlier. So right now you've joined a very competitive team. It's you and Paul and David Williams. Paul, I know I'm going to butcher his name.
Rietzel for Magic?
Yes. So how does it? So the three of you are coming in and playing Star Wars. How does?
No, Matt's the only one playing Star Wars.
Oh, Matt's okay.
He's on the Bad Bunch.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, I had to form a new. We had to join up with a new kind of Star Wars theme, but definitely chasing some of that experience I've had elsewhere, where I've had a lot of fun playing on a team. I think it is more fun than trying to solve things on your own, which I did for a little bit, just trying to figure things out on my own. And man, you learn a lot faster when you got other folks to talk to about this type of stuff.
So how is that different than like a Magic's? I mean, you've been on these larger teams like the Pantheon and these big Magic teams with maybe 20 deep, and then you've been on like the smaller teams like the team tournaments with two of your close friends, Paul and David. How is it? What are those three experiences like? Sort of differentiate the three of those. So you got the super Magic teams, you've got the close knit Magic friends that are also you play in the usually a sealed. Teams. I think there was the one Pro Tour that was
team limited for the most part. Yeah,
for the most part, and then now the new hot squad in Star Wars CCG, the Bad Bunch.
Yeah, I mean, good question. They're very different experiences. Like with the team, I always start with like, what are you looking to put in? What are you hoping to get out? And it's different. Like I've been on teams where the whole team was like, we don't have a ton of time to show up early and prepare, and it's going to be kind of an online sort of let's talk about things, less high touch type of thing. I've been on other teams where it's like we're all going to show up. Like for a tournament in Hawaii, we're going to literally rent an Airbnb in Hawaii for 9 days before. We're going to practice for those 9 days, lock our deck in with 3 days left or whatever. Like, so there's all different kinds of experiences, and they're fun and challenging in their own ways. The bigger teams, of course, it's like a big group project. And so you can imagine there's all kinds of issues with personalities, with getting the work done, organizing, staying organized. And I've learned a lot over the years. The smaller teams, you're more focused, but you have less resources. You can't play every matchup 50 times because you just don't have the manpower to do it. And then with the new team in Star Wars, I'm coming at it where I'm not at that level. So I gotta focus on learning and improving. I'm trying to get the basics down. I'm not winning a lot. I'm winning a little, and that's fun, but I'm not winning a lot, and I got a lot to learn and a lot to improve on. And so I'm trying to partner up with some other players who are kind of similarly trying to learn and improve. And obviously, like, do we want to do well in the next thing? Of course. But we also know that it doesn't just happen with a game that's as hard as Star Wars. So that's been kind of I'm at a different point in the journey, and I recognize I'm at a different point in the journey with Star Wars. So I'm looking for something a little different out of that experience.
That's really telling. I've had a similar experience when I did try to sort of play competitive Magic. I knew some people who were pretty good, and I would play with them, and they'd be like, "Yeah, you messed up. Like I learned how to play with like Jason Ford and like Matt Costa and those guys.
Yeah.
And they were just thinking like 3 seconds, and they're super smart, like 10 years younger than me too. So I didn't play Magic until I was about 30. And then, I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to win. And they're like, yeah, just tap this and like do this. And I'm like, okay, like, but let me think, because like when I'm actually playing, I'm not going to be able to like have you be like, yeah, they're dead. Or like, I need to actually think things through. Like, can you explain some of the stuff?
Yeah.
But then it felt like sort of charity at a certain point where it was like, okay, yeah, you're just continuing to like sort of tutor me. So yeah, having people on your same wavelength, I think, is really helpful.
And so much of it becomes so much of it becomes automatic once you have a certain number of hours under your belt. You've seen these patterns enough times. But there's no shortcut. There's no shortcut where tomorrow I'm gonna be able to recognize the same patterns in a Star Wars game that you can. That shortcut's not out there. So, just find some folks that you're willing to spend some time with while you're getting those reps. That sounds good to me.
Now, what is your trajectory? Like, what's your sort of next step? Like, you're trying to get better. You have an experience of like a thumbprint of being really good and being really successful in another game. Mm-hmm. Are you going to try to continue to play? And let's say that COVID hopefully eventually passes and we're back to able to like do things. Do you think you'll travel to some events or continue to play?
I do.
You're going to stay online and kind of.
I have all the cards. Like, I have the cards. I do. I mean, I'm having a ton of fun. The future. Like, I mean, I don't place a whole lot of stock in trying to predict how I'm going to feel a year from now. I mean, who knows? We've seen what a couple months can do in 2020 in terms of changing things. So who knows? But no, I definitely have plans. I want to play in person. I'm having so much fun doing it that, like, it's also fun. Yeah, I don't know. It's fun to not, like, the expectations that you put on yourself as a tournament player, and it's something different than showing up and having fun. So I'm going to put expectations on myself to try to do better than I did last month or whatever. But, it's a different kind of mindset, and I'm having just a lot of fun. So absolutely, like, I'm looking forward to getting once it's safe to do so, getting together with folks in person and figuring out what that's like. I haven't shuffled the Star Wars deck in again, 15 years or whatever, but 20 years.
So do you know a lot about our OP? I mean, it's more informal. So essentially what we do is, you mentioned earlier that like PT top 8s are sort of your barometer. I'm speaking sort of for myself a little bit here, but I think Worlds is sort of our marquee event, and there's not really anything that is really that close to it. We do have a large European community, and they have Worlds last year was actually in Bochum, Germany, which was pretty cool.
And I was going to say, Justin, you even went to that one, so
I did. Yeah, it was cool.
You could tell him about how some of the experiences that you had.
Yeah, very. I mean, it was at like a restaurant. You know, it was very different from like a convention hall.
Mhm.
You know, Worlds is generally around 70 people. That does it cuts to top 8.
Mm-hmm.
Do our best with prizes, and then we have a NCAA 64-person bracket event in the United States in New Jersey. Is sort of usually about 6 months away from Worlds, so we can kind of
Okay, cool.
have those both parts of the year, and then we'll do events like the Texas event that's now online.
Yeah.
And we'll do like a couple sort of mini, we call them opens, and they usually, garner about maybe 30 or 40 people, and they're kind of just to sort of have on the calendar.
Yeah.
And we'll have like smaller events that people aren't quite as sort of intense with. Not that Worlds is like a cutthroat environment, but it's certainly it's the event that I care about. I mean, like you mentioned,
Yeah.
It's
like
the only one.
It's the only tournament I care about. Other than no, it's the only tournament I care about. So I think it's the same type of thing you were saying. Like you don't care about playing Magic just to play,
Well, I mean,
and I can play, and I want to win, but it's like it's a different level of sort of what you sort of put in your own mind of like what you want out of the game. That's
for sure.
I want to win versus the NPC, which is probably the second big tournament. Not really caring about that one too much.
Well, I mean,
but yeah, we'd love to see you at those.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Look, if it was, let's imagine, COVID wasn't happening or the vaccine was, ubiquitous tomorrow. And then you told me, in November, there's going to be this thing in New Jersey. Like, I honestly, like, I can't imagine I wouldn't go to it. I mean, it just like it sounds, I'm having, like I said, I'm spending a lot of time doing this. And every time, I play a game, I get excited about it. I get into it. And so, I feel about it in a way that, again, it's hard for me to feel that way about Magic these days, just because so much of it is just kind of like keeping up with that competitive scene. I mean, I love Magic. Like, it's given me something for 26 years, but again, I'm at year 26 or whatever in that journey. Whereas here, I feel like I'm kind of in year 1 in a lot of ways of being a competitive Star Wars. Right. That's fun. It's fun to be in year 1.
Yeah, it's fun to like lose a game and not have like the person who beat you like run over to their friends and be like, I beat this person, and like high fiving. Looking like this.
You know what, Justin? If I ever do that in real life against you, I'm probably going to do that, though.
That happened.
I'm just saying.
We're kind of flipped. Matt and I are kind of flipped. I show up to a Magic tournament, no one knows who I am. I show up to a Star Wars tournament, people are like, "Oh, beat Justin, it's great."
Yeah.
It's a little bit exhausting.
I remember when I first started playing a couple months ago, someone said like in the chat of a game, like, "Oh, Justin uses this or that card in that deck." And I was like, Justin who? Like, what are you talking about? And then the person had to be like, wait, what do you mean? Like, it was like a weird thing where I just didn't know. Like I didn't know what was what. And
names have names. And there's different, like, the conversations where someone will argue that someone's better than me and someone else is better than, those type of things. All communities have those, including Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, all those different things. I'm going to go cycle through the chat. So top question that I see, if I missed any above it, sorry. One thing I did want to ask Matt is that he went through Premiere to Death Star 2 and then Premiere to Reflections 2 and eventually Open. Was that a product of your competitive nature, or was it just your sort of best way to learn the game?
I think it is. I don't know that. Yeah, I haven't tried or thought about enough different approaches to say what's best or what's going to be best for the next person that comes along or whatever. It's more about my competitive nature. I know where I'm comfortable. If I'm struggling and I'm making mistakes, fine. I'll wear that. I know how to wear that. I blew it. I made a mistake. I deployed the wrong card. Yeah. Whatever. Oh, that cost 7 force because of your thing. I didn't see it. I know how to wear that, but I don't really know how to wear like, oh, you're playing a deck that's not really trying to win, or oh, we're playing this thing in.
I see.
Like we're playing a different format, and so that's not where the super competitive players are. I don't know, and maybe there are competitive players there, but they're not as numerous. For me, it's like, okay, I want there to be a spot where there's competitive players. Mm-hmm. The game is active, so if I show up at 8 p.m., reasonable chance I can find a game. It just kind of was natural for me. So it's more about my competitive nature and just kind of, hey, that's where to find the competitive games. Okay, cool. That's where I ought to be.
That makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. Another question is, have you had a chance to actually look at any of our event coverage? We have a YouTube channel on some in real life games. It might give
have not
perspective, okay, we can
Mhm.
send you some of those. I mean, if you're interested.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Some
that's a good idea.
little higher production quality. We've done a lot in the last couple of years to like improve cameras and like glare and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be fun to watch. I've never seen it.
I would say
Gonna be
maybe
a
check
lot.
out the Endor MP or the Endor Grand Prix. That was the last live event. That one actually had a lot of good production. Jerry was the guy
Jerry,
there.
I'm
He did a
filling
lot
in
of the
for
commentary.
right now. Right.
But,
Yeah, that's a good one.
yeah,
That's a good one.
Good advice.
Worlds was a little difficult last year just because it was over in Germany. Um, but
Yeah,
I'm trying to
World
think
2019 is probably a decent one. I think we had some good
of,
stuff
18.
there.
Yeah, the one where Bastion beat Tom Kelly.
18, right?
Yeah,
22, right? this year,
right.
this year is something.
I'm trying to think if there's any other good ones.
Yeah, the people are saying Endor was really good.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
that
Endor
is
is pretty good just because one, the meta is still a little bit the same. There's some new cards that were introduced like Orison with Blaster Rifle, Admiral
Right.
Trench.
What happened with map? How come there used to be a bunch of map decks and now there isn't?
That's a good idea. So
So go ahead, Dan.
I was going to say Map's just so Map has gone through a plethora of erratas over the last couple of years to the point where right now it's just not as good as it once was.
Was there
Outside
like
of that,
key
I mean,
nerf?
Yeah.
yeah, there was that, and then
So,
light side plays.
got rid of the card.
Which one?
We just got rid of strategic reserves. So it used to be
Yeah.
a strategic reserves virtual that worked with the first order troopers. So
Okay.
that helped a lot. It's had a bunch of errata. So essentially what happened was Worlds 2019, which was in September, the meta, I mean, this is similar to the effect of like Magic with solved metas happening much quicker with online.
Yeah.
It used to be that we would have our OP schedule and we had those tournaments. We'd have 4 or 5 a year. And in between them, no one really played because, I mean, we're not kids anymore. So you're not like getting together with your friends and playing. And without Gem being around,
it's hard.
no one was playing. So you would actually show up to a tournament with innovation. It was kind of like the old Magic event where people would be like, what did the pros brew up? And now it's oh, they're playing, whatever, the Wilderness Reclamation, and they're doing this and they're doing this. So it's a similar affect. So after Worlds, you kind of have to, it's very similar, actually. The parallels are very similar where you're like, okay, well, we have 40 decks, but everyone who wants to win is playing 3. So what do we have to do? So for Darkside back, October, November, December, it was basically you had 2 choices, which were Map and ROPS. So they both got tweaked in power level and probably tweaked a little bit too much to sort of not being really all that good at all anymore.
Yeah.
And Throne Room used to be able to play like the Jedi Luke that Hitko can play and was just completely absurd. And Throne Room's still good. Throne Room's sort of going to be something that's always going to be kind of good just by the nature of what it does. And then the other errata, I forget what the other one was. Old Allies was much better. I forget what it was.
Old Ally, it was, so originally it was you could cancel at your site, so you could cancel the drains at like Jakku. Well, now that you can't cancel at Jakku, so people were playing cards like Hark, Seth, non-virtual, so that way the drains were decreased. So there was ways that people were building the deck, but those unfortunately the decks like just like Justin said.
It's really hard. It's really hard to make a tweak. No, I get it. Yeah, that's something that I've experienced. Obviously, we've all played multiple games. Any game like power level, that it's a really sensitive dial. You try to turn it goes too far. Yeah.
And if you like play a deck and you know how good it is, but like the margins are so slim, it becomes really hard because you're like, oh, I win 95% of the time with this deck, but like as you're explaining to people like, oh, the deck's broken, but it's like, yeah, but if you tweak it a little bit, it's like going to win like 40% because the margins are just so narrow in some of the matchups. Like, and that was with ROPS. Like, the margins were so narrow. It was a really great deck, but the margins were small.
Yeah, and of course, like a little bit worse could be a lot worse if it's doing the same kind of thing and occupying the same space, right? If it's a slightly worse predator of the same type of prey, then it doesn't.
Exactly.
You're just gonna play the best one. Yeah, no, that all makes sense. Okay, cool. I was just curious. I know I look back at those deck lists, kind of looking for ideas, looking for stuff. And I'm like, oh, there's a lot of map in this one, but it's gone. Now it makes sense.
Endor is the current format too, so that's probably a good one to look.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah, I was going to say, because like Endor, there was a lot of no idea. There was some Agents of the Black Sun. There was some core, some Throne Room mixed in because the new Luke Rebel Scout just came out, so people were using that. Not a lot of Hitco, just because people wanted to use the new Luke Rebel Scout, and you can't play the new. You can't play the Luke effect in Throne Room, so there was that.
And there's like residual effects, like so it used to be able to play the Luke effect in Throne Room, so it was actually like map only had to really deal with like Luke's lightsaber, and all of a sudden now it has to deal with like Leia's blaster rifle, which happens to be really good against map. A second lightsaber, more diversity, which is good against map. Map was good at like killing the one guy. It could like cancel the game and like kill Luke. Luke's dead now. The game's like in its favor, and now it's like so many more guys, and you lose strategic reserves. There's a lot.
Yeah.
Of it.
I tried playing map. It was tough, but also like it's also kind of a hard deck to play because you got to think about you're deploying on 2 planets. And it's hard to figure out where to put your guys. True. So, anyways, I was curious.
And I think actually I was going to say I think the bigger thing is that ISB got a huge boost with slip sliding away virtual. So you have a deck like ISB that was borderline, I would say maybe tier 2. That one card basically just ramped it up to tier 1, maybe even tier 0.5 at this point.
Oh, so that's why the helper cards are so good, because it didn't used to have slip sliding away. Okay.
Yeah. So with ISB, you only had the one locate. You can only start the one location. Right. So you're only activating maybe 3 if you're playing against a throne room.
Right. Now you've got slip sliding away, which also allows security precautions. So you're +3.
Exactly.
Sort of the concept I think was to sort of modernize those decks, keep them up with the power curves you started with. Now, so what is your take on the meta? Like, take your whole sort of concept of placing yourself or where you are skill wise in the game or knowledge of the game. What do you think? What do you think about the meta right now? And just
I mean, like as much as I struggle in game and playing mistake free Star Wars or whatever, like I'm a pretty good deck builder, pretty decent at figuring out what's going on in the meta game. So yeah, I think like right now, I think the spy objectives, no idea, and ISB are probably like a little bit stronger than they ought to be, but things aren't so unhealthy that it's not coming at great expense to fun or diversity. I mean, you can mix it up and play a few different things, and I think the meta, it's got like a pretty good healthy trade-offs where it's not obvious whether you want to deploy to both theaters as light side, or do I want to just play on the ground and give up space? And like, there's a lot of healthy dynamics there. So I've been pretty impressed with how it feels to build decks and pick decks, and understand like, okay, which side has a stronger like mains and toys strategy right now? How does that interact with the different objectives? Like, it's been a really fun puzzle to just throw myself into, and I've been mostly pleased with the different trade-offs that are available and how it feels to give up a little of this to get a little bit of that. It feels pretty healthy. Okay. So overall, I think it's fun, and a lot of the virtual cards are actually designed quite well towards those ends.
Cool. That's cool. So what are you thinking about just in terms of like, maybe it's just the bad bunch will get mad at you, but what are you thinking in terms of like new brews and like stuff that you're working on now? Is it all top secret?
Well, I mean, it's not like, look, I'm working on different stuff. I think, I was working on Legend a little bit. Last month I was working on Hyperdrive a lot. When I was working by myself, just like sitting, just working, like just not talking to anybody about it. I didn't have anyone to talk to, and I spent a lot of time on Hyperdrive, and it was like another fun puzzle that was good for me because it kind of tells you what to do, as opposed to being like wide open. But since I'm now working with some players who actually know how the other decks work, I don't know. I think, like I said, looking at ISB and figuring out what's the right way to build that is certainly how a lot of people right now, I think, are spending their time. When Darkseid and some of my teammates did well with Watto in the last OCS, so no surprises there. And then on light side, I'm kind of lost a little bit. I don't, Hyperdrive was like a fun experiment, but I think like against top player with top deck, doesn't really cut it necessarily. And then the other options, like at some point, I guess I'll just give up and learn no idea, but I haven't learned it yet. So I'm still trying to figure out other stuff.
Yeah, no idea. I think I played it the other day, and 20 minutes in, I was like, oh, right, messed this one up, and like I played a little more, but it was clear that like I was 100% just not learning the play patterns, and it has some pretty redundant stuff that I did not pick up on. So yeah, this is exactly what you said. Just it's learning how to play a deck, and there's so many.
Yeah.
There's so many.
Yeah. I think Lightside's in a little bit of a weird position right now where No Idea is clearly the one of the best decks, if not the best deck. And then you have like tier 2, a lot of decks at tier 2 with, I mean, don't get me wrong, Throne Rooms is still good, but Throne Room has that issue of, well, if you don't get your activation, you're stuck. So
yeah, I think there's a lot of light, personally. I think there's a lot of light decks that could be tier 1. Like even a deck like Diplo, like no one's like preparing to beat Diplo because you're expecting it, but like Diplo can just like draw 8s and has 20 guys that all draw on their own. And if you get set up, like there's a fine line if you need to hit Diplo early, and if once it gets going.
I tried. It's funny. I built a Diplo deck and played it today, so it's funny that you said that. And then I had like this very humbling experience of I built Diplo with Commander Luke and Speeders. I played one match with it against a random person in the league. They're playing Watto, and I'm like, okay, great. This is like exactly how Chris screwed up. I've got Commander Luke against Watto, and I lost the game anyway. So I was like, okay, well, you know, I've got a long way to go, but no, it's fun to try all these different decks, and I've played a little Throne Room, I've played a little Hitco, I've played a little Legend. Like it's been really fun to try this, and some days I have a focus where I want to go deep into a deck like Hyperdrive, and some days let me try 3 different decks. It's been fun.
Now, how often does the sort of like the urge to think that we're like you've got it, like you found something that no one else found? How often does that come, or is that not really a thing, and you're kind of learning some more like stuff? I mean, Hyperdrive in itself is kind of that to a certain degree. I mean, it's you did well with it.
No, I had some aha moments where like I was like looking at other people's lists once I built mine, and I was like, why are they playing all these Tatooine locations? Like you just want to be at the junkyard. Like why do I want like the farm and all this other stuff for my opponents to put their ISB agents at? Like it doesn't sound fun to me. And so like I've had those light bulb moments, and those are always like rewarding in a journey where it's like, oh, I think I am kind of seeing this in a way that has value. But I always do have I'm humble. I mean, I understand like if I have 3 of those light bulb moments, 2 of them are probably like, oh, well, there's a reason that doesn't work. You know, it's like the day you discover Ice Storm or whatever, and you're like, oh shit, this is going to be amazing. And then you go, oh wait, it's shielded. I mean, like, those types of moments happen too. But every now and then I'll go, oh, okay, actually, I think this might be a slight improvement or a slight tweak, and that's fun. I like that.
Catching up with the chat. So Informant 118, Matt has played Paper when he was younger, back in the Decipher age, and got back into Star Wars CCG during COVID. So obviously it's been 100% online, but does have plans. Well, thinks though we might see Matt at a in real life event in the future once those.
Someday for sure.
There's nothing like a real life Star Wars event. I mean, I know that you've been to a lot of PTQs and everything, but there's like as people mentioned in the chat, there's a nice little comfort level to a Star Wars event where we play in a lot of hotels versus a convention hall for PTQs. So
no, I like there's even online it has a smaller community. It has that coziness. Obviously, like in person, it's gonna literally like there's a different comfort, coziness, whatever. But even online, like you play against the same people. Like before, like again, I'm sitting there playing on my own, haven't talked to anybody about the game. I'm playing against some of the same players multiple times. I go, oh yeah, like this player is really good. Like kind of getting myself hyped up a little. Okay, this person crushed me last time, but I got something different to throw this time, and maybe I'll get it this time.
You got an EPP mall on your court deck, and like it's gonna get.
You know what's not a bad idea? Playing Tat Mall in your court deck.
I don't know. The EPP mall scary.
I put one. Yeah, I had one Maul and one Maul Infiltrator or whatever in court, and then I played against Justin, who was on Legend, and I hadn't played against Legend enough times for it to be automatic in my mind. Like the first time you battle them and they have resistance, agent, like you can't fire weapons.
Yeah.
So it's like this perfect storm of like I've added this weird card to my deck. The whole reason it's in there is because you can clear 2 characters with it. I deploy it, and then it's like, oh, the objective flips, and like it's an absolute disaster. And of course, a lot of games you play when you're learning, they have that shape. They have that shape to them, right? Where you try to make, if you make 3 mistakes and you take 2 things away and you learn to, I mean, that's great, right? So I try to do that and be like, all right, well, you take your lumps and it's frustrating. Everyone gets frustrated. I get frustrated certainly, but guess what? You're not going to show up on Monday and on Tuesday, all of a sudden you're not making mistakes.
Yeah.
It's good perspective. Someone just posted in the chat that Worlds was actually the same weekend as Pro Tour Washington D.C., but both are canceled. But they were in. Wait, where was Worlds scheduled to be in D.C.?
Yeah, Worlds was scheduled to be in D.C. this year.
Gotta kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Gotta play both.
It's like someone, the joke.
Yeah, I was.
Sorry,
go ahead, Matt.
I was gonna say the joke is like someone wished that Star Wars would have a tournament scene a live tournament scene that's just as big as Magic, and then the monkey paw turns, and sure enough, we all have the same paper tournament schedule.
Man.
Yeah, I think there was a joke about like how people were going to play at either the Star Wars event, drop, and then go try and play in like some of the side events at the PTQ. It's just like that would be, but that's why we got to get more side events at the Star Wars events.
Yeah, I mean, there's some pretty cool ones. We can actually talk to Matt about that. There's generally a team tournament prior to the larger tournaments, which is you play one side and your opponent your teammate plays the other side. And you play like 3 or 4 games. That's pretty cool, and like you win. Yeah. It's a diff match. It's a diff thing, and then we do some steel stuff. Product's been really like booming price wise, so it's probably hard to like just rip open packs and like play sealed, but that's usually something that the people that we've had at a lot of events.
I think there's been a cube draft here or there.
Yeah, there's a cube draft for Star Wars is not the easiest thing. No.
So one thing I was going to ask, because I'm bringing this up because you mentioned like prices going up. One thing is like I've been kind of reluctant to start like shouting from the rooftops on my Magic platform of like, here's what I've been playing Star Wars and that, because I don't know if people in this community like want more players coming in, don't want more players coming. Anyways, I just feel like it's weird for me to come in and be like, I'm the new person. If I were to tweet and
in talking to Scott Lingrell, who's sort of the emperor of our whole world, who's kept it going. Scott was sort of integral in starting everything and talked to Decipher and has talked to Disney with different lawyers and rights and what can we do.
Yeah.
He's kind of in charge. He wants as many people to know about this as possible. We've had spots in the history of the game where it's fizzled a little bit, sort of like a fire, and you're like, oh, is it gonna go out? Is this gonna be really kind of? And then I think we've had parts of where the game was healthier and like people were enjoying it. And the new movies came back and kind of gave some life to it. And it did. There's been I'm not speaking officially for the PC, and maybe I should put you in touch with Scott. You guys can connect.
I'll speak officially.
Yeah, go for it.
There's no such thing as bad marketing. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
So, okay. I mean, if you know people who would be interested in, that's great. We're working on trying to get some more marketing stuff out there especially to players who play other games and stuff. So
cool, because I was thinking about stuff like doing a video on my YouTube channel for like, hey, here's an intro to Star Wars for Magic players, and like here's something.
That would be
I didn't want to do that. If if those 20 people that I play against all the time were gonna all of a sudden think like, oh, this guy's like bringing this unwanted noob into the thing.
No, so I think that'd be great.
I wasn't sure about that.
The exposure is great. I think it's great to get new people. It brings excitement. Yeah. It's been awesome having you here. We were excited when you like tweeted something about Star Wars, and Siggy, he's from my area, so I know Siggy from way back, and he was like, oh, I have the cards, and I was like, oh my, I think I messaged Siggy, and I was like, tell Matt to like hit me up like right now, like we can bring him in, like let's bring him in. So yeah, I think that'd be awesome.
Cool. So it sounds like I had some nervous energy that was unnecessary, but okay, cool. Yeah.
In connection to like the product, like the prices have spiked, and obviously, like, there's nothing
Yeah.
banned. Luke's are $200 or whatever, but
More than
I
that
mean,
now.
Jump is a thing, and there
Yeah.
are decks that are very budget friendly. I mean, you look at some very competitive, like Map when it was
Yeah.
competitive was very cheap. There weren't really any rares.
Yeah.
And one of the things the PC does, all the virtual cards for the most part the backings are like commons.
Right.
That's by design. Like, every so often we'll do like we'll do like some donor cards, and people will want a specific card, kind of like that sentimental thing you were saying earlier.
Sure.
Like you win a
Yeah.
tournament, kind of like the Magic. What is it? Like the like Snapcaster and Meddling Mage. Like the
Yeah,
like want a specific thing, so you'll be like, oh, I won that tournament with like that Yoda, so I want to use that. But for the most part, we use like Sense is one, or Emperor's Power, these easy to get commons.
Yeah, and
So, like getting a deck to play for a new person who's like, oh, I can't spend $3,000 walking into the game.
Yeah.
We'll make it work in a real
Easily.
life event.
And most of the time, so many people are willing to let people borrow cards. I know if you want to borrow, if you ever want to borrow a Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight, Chris Kelly has like 20 of them, and he always lends people to them.
And plus, I'm having a blast, and I haven't shuffled up a physical card yet. I'm having a blast online, so I know I can offer other people that for sure. And I guess at the end of the day, now that I think about it more, I mean, a new player coming and buying cards is going to be better than a collector.
Yes.
A collector putting on the shelf is just for this community of people who want to play, like a new player buying the cards to play with them that's probably all good.
Yeah, it's all good, and also like. The prices are sort of strange because there's this top end that's really spiked, and then sealed product is spiked. But if you're actually trying to play, you don't really want sealed product.
Right.
Like P59 is a very playable card from like one of the sets that's super hard to get and is $10 on eBay.
Right.
So it's like, and it's it's a $10 card.
It's a $10 card.
Like, right. So like at some point, like a collector coming in and buying like every P59 is actually bad for the game. But like 30 new people coming in because they're seeing Matt stream on YouTube of like just playing Jump, and he's got the link to Jump, and he's like, hey, people play it, and I'm having a blast doing it. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, I want to buy some cards for these things. I think it's much healthier for the game than anything. And new blood. The chat is actually also jumping off about
So
I mean, I've actually been like, there's an old school Magic community where they try to play like the cards that came out in 1993, 1994 exclusively, and as opposed to any of the new cards. And every community is different, and that community was also like fun and welcoming in different ways to tournament players. But everybody's got a different approach to like, how do we talk about it, market it. This is great. Just clearing the air, kind of understanding where folks are at. Sounds like great. More the merrier.
Right. The only thing that would probably want to be mentioned is that like in a real life event, like you're not allowed to proxy. That's probably the only sort of caveat in sense of like the legal side of things, but not to go too deep down the rabbit hole on that one. But that's really the only sort of scary thing that pops up every so often.
Same as Magic, no proxy.
No problem.
I just talked to Scott. Nothing official has been said with Worlds. So just stay tuned to stay tuned to the forums until all the advocates announce something official. But
we don't have any ability to announce something official. I think it's pretty clear that we're not going to have a real meetup.
I think I know that they have a plan they're working on a plan as we speak.
Right.
But that's all I know.
I'm a teacher, and we've had 1,000 different plans from.
I spend my entire workday almost working through like leading our office, our remote work policy, our office reopening plan, all these legal and logistical issues around reopening. So believe me, I'm the last person you need to convince that it's complicated and we don't have the answer right now. I get it. It's complicated. We don't have the answer right now, and that's the best you can do.
Pretty much.
Dan, do you want to get into some?
Yeah, well,
we went through most of our general questions. I'll try to catch up with the chat, but if you want to do some swing and a miss,
we'll go into that for a little bit. So swing and a miss. First one. So I looked at the OCS leaderboard this month. We got somebody who's 9-0, Mr. Coffee Pass. Do we know who that is in real life, Justin?
That's true. I want to say it's true.
I think
Someone
so.
in the chat will say,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Okay,
It is
yeah,
true.
it's true. He's 9-0 this month.
I know.
He's playing really well. So swing and a miss, it's a hit. He'll go 12-0 and make the OCS playoffs.
So 12-0, and will this person go 12-0? I'm gonna say miss. Not, and I think I'm one of those 9 losses. One of those 9 wins, I believe, is against me. So I firsthand, nothing to do with the skill of that player. Really hard to string together 12 in a row. And so you're asking me basically, is this person a favorite to go 3-0? Probably not. Probably certainly a bigger favorite, a smaller dog than I would be, but probably is still an underdog to go 3-0. But good luck to him.
I'm gonna say miss, but I think he will qualify. I think 2-1 probably gets to 11-1, which probably qualifies. And if he's 9-0, certainly done the 9-0 to like 9-3. We've all been there, but he's playing well, and you can kind of, it's not one of the things with the OCS. It's not like you're going to necessarily play someone else who's doing really well. So you could play someone who's struggling or just get in the end. So
I'm gonna agree with you, you two guys. I think he goes 11-1.
Oh, he is playing right now.
He is playing right now. Let's go check it out.
How's he doing?
Hopefully he's crushing or crushed.
He's playing Wayne, and it's a no idea court matchup. So for those who are watching,
it
still looks.
He's on the bad side of that. Well,
yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, I'm pulling the game up as well. Ooh,
live action.
Yeah, I hope he's got a gick for that paddle.
I like light here.
Yeah, because power 26-8 right now before Destiny. That's not good.
Well, there's only one.
Is light beating down? So he's light, right?
Oh, he's light. Okay, yeah, he's on the good side.
Yeah, I think he's in good shape.
Yeah.
Court? Oh, good. You meant like good guys, bad guys. I was thinking like Court is a good matchup for.
No, I think no.
Court's.
Oh, he initiated that battle too.
What?
Oh yeah, that's looking good for him. So okay, we'll go on to question 2.
He was listening. He got mad and he said, "I'm 12-0 in."
Good. I want to see it. Okay, so question number 2. Right now, the Texas Mini Worlds is sitting at 33 people. Will we get up to the 64 that Robbie wants to see in the event?
For which event?
The Texas Mini Worlds. The one. The one that you and I are both signed up for, and Justin is not.
I'm signing up, so that's plus 1. I just haven't. I'm on with people who always like last minute.
That's true. Is Mike and Steve going to be joining you?
I think so, probably.
I want to see Johnny get back.
Yeah, Johnny. I think we're not going to see for a little while, but
that's fair.
He's not done for good. That's for sure.
Good.
The goat, the hidden goat, Matt. There's sort of my teammate is like sort of the presumptive goat of Star Wars CCG, but he's on a break. He's got a family and stuff like that, so he'll be back. He's way too competitive and way too good to be gone forever.
Yeah, it's like people leave, but they always come back with these games that really.
The comeback is always there. Yeah. Sure.
So, personally, I think we're going to get up to the 64. According to the chat, we're sitting at 38. So I guess it updated between between this when I wrote the question and to now. So I think we could get up to the 64.
I think we'll be there.
Yeah.
I think we'll be there. Wow, I'm like distracted. This game is very interesting because you have all this stuff in space. You expect to see all the sites sort of stacked, and there's only Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah. He's gonna land at some point and start.
He has to land and start pinging, but I mean,
let's see. He's got Cassian and
no one's doing damage, which is funny.
Well, I mean, he's doing that 1 point of damage during the deploy phase, so he's got.
Oh, true, right?
But outside of that, he's not doing. Yeah, you're right. He's not doing any damage. So we'll come back to that game in a little bit.
With like some split screen actions. Like
that's what you know. What
bonus coverage.
Having 2 monitors is a good thing.
Yeah, I am on
Yeah.
multiple tabs right now.
Okay, so
Well, I think Robbie's going to get a number that's very close to
Yeah.
60. I think maybe a little above, a little below. I don't think initially. I think he was hoping that because everyone's home, that it would be like this astronomical number. But I think that's a little bit far fetched because they're still doing stuff. But I think he'll have around 60.
I'm really looking forward to that event.
yeah, it's going to be fun.
It's really new to me.
I know this just as a little tidbit for all of our viewers right now. Expect a lot of prize support. I was speaking to Robbie earlier. He's thinking about we're going to have foils, trophies, cups or glasses of some sort. On top of that, we're getting new play mats. They're going to be smaller, more mouse-sized play mats just for the decks as well. Just for the decks. And he's talking about doing some other stuff as well. Maybe some bags, like the old messenger bag.
The old swag from the card games. That's cool. Do we want to do what we have? Let's continue swing and a miss, and then
I think we got a few more.
A little bit about Matt's deck, and then we can wrap.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so right now, with everybody who's signed up currently, Brian Fred is the favorite to win Texas Mini Worlds.
Who else is signed up?
Good question.
It's gonna be hard for me to answer. I don't know anybody.
Yeah, you don't know the names.
Well, I know. Let's see. Brian Fred, obviously.
I think favorites in these ones are always tricky because
Werfs is signed up.
Even if you have someone clearly playing better, it's like, what does favorite really mean? Like, they're still going against the field.
Chris Kelly, Jared Napolitano, Greg Shaw. I think those are the biggest names.
I don't know. I'm going to go with, Ty. I think there's a lot of decent guys there.
I do, too, but B-Fred's playing really well right now.
Fred has been playing well. Yeah, he's been playing well. So, yeah, all right, you know what? It's a hit. Fred's a good guy. He's a good guy. Matt has to abstain. Unless Matt just wants to say right now, I'm the favorite.
You know what?
Just go all
I want to.
No, I mean, I'll take field. I'll say miss on this, so I'm part of the field. So technically,
there it
is. But I have a lot of support, so I'll take field.
Okay. So the next one we got Matt. You will make a top 8 at a major in 2021. So next year.
So from now to next year. So we're talking about
next
year.
From now until
let's include
the end of 2001.
More excitement. Yeah. So from now until the end of 2000. So 15 months.
16. No, it's a miss. I can tell you how hard this game is. You guys already know how hard it is, but I can tell you from my perspective, I was telling you guys in the pre-call, having played Magic, I know how high that mountain is to play at the top level, to play kind of mistake-free as an aspirational goal, or at least mistake-limited. It's really, really hard. I'm not close right now. So this is a miss, but I think will I? See, the thing is, I'm gonna improve quickly, and I'm gonna be happy with how I'm playing, and still not be close to being one of the 8 players in a field. So I think I'm still giving myself credit for doing pretty well, and I'm happy with how I'm doing, and I'm still not gonna get there. So this is a miss for me.
I think it's a hit, and I'm going to explain why to Matt. You're not dealing with gigantic fields, so that is a difference. You're not, and this is assuming that you're playing too. So that's the obvious. The trajectory is the same. You're not dealing with huge fields. You're also not dealing with everyone. You take those jump queues that you're talking about, and people who go to the tournaments. There are people who go to hang out and they play. But the people who maybe aren't quite as Dan fits this category. He's not quite as competitive. He's not practicing. He's just he wants to go, he wants to hang, see his friends, and he wants to play some Star Wars. And he might say, "Oh, this has changed. Oh, this strategy." And you're thinking of it from a competitive standpoint, which I think puts you certainly in the running. Now, like you said, you've got ground to make up because you're coming in now later. But I think the competitive drive is a lot more worth it than you are. I think it's certainly a possibility. I don't think there's a field like for instance, I don't think you go to a tournament that like 20 of the people are just like angling for those top 8s. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people sort of in the middle that I think you can pass pretty fast.
So I'm going to say
this. I'll just say I've been really impressed with the quality of play from the players taking it really seriously. The players who have put up these OCS results month after month. When I play against these people, I've been really, really impressed with like how much they understand their deck, the matchup. You watch them. I watch them play. I'll spectate one game and then play in the next, or spectate, and they're playing differently because the matchup's different and the situation's different. And I've just been really impressed. So I think I come at that question with a lot of respect for how good some of these players are. So yeah, I mean, I hope I can get lucky at some point in one of these, but I wouldn't bet on it.
So
that is also true. Like the people have gotten much better since Gem. I mean, it used to be like you go to an event and you'd be like, oh, 5 people can win, or 6 people can win, and now that's not the case. I mean, Gem has leveled the field immensely. I think there's still people who are above it, and they especially if you now go to real life play and all the triggers aren't popping up, that plays a role.
Very true.
But there used to be, let me put it this way, there were people that 7 years ago I would sit down next to, I'd be like, okay, like let's go through the motions, but I'm not going to lose. And now it's like matchup's not great for me. I'm looking at winning that game less than 50% of the time. Whereas before it's like, okay, bad matchup, but like, all right, let's wait for them to make a mistake, let's capitalize and win.
Yeah.
So Jemp has changed a lot.
I'm sure it's moving in that direction, closing those gaps. Yeah, it's good having that online tool. You can practice a lot more. I mean, a lot more. Like capital A, capital L, a lot more. With
you get a lot of support in the chat saying you're definitely going to be in the run. You don't have. Yeah, that's a good thing. It's an interesting point. Not necessarily winning the event, but
yeah.
So I mean, I'm thinking of like looking at the indoor Grand Prix top 8. There are players who I think have that drive to do well, but you're at a cut above. You're like at that competitive level as like a Justin. You expect to do well in an event just because you come from that Magic background. You said it. You've made top 8s 3 times at big Magic events, at Pro Tour events. So you have that, I don't want to say advantage, but you have that leg up essentially. I'm going to say advantage over a lot of people. I mean, at the Indoor Grand Prix, there were players who, like Connor Britton, he's a good player. That was his first event. That was literally his first event. He played 2 decks he knew. He made the top 8. I'm trying to remember who else made the top 8.
It's probably a good lesson in that right there, though. Show up with some reps under your belt. With the decks you got in your hand.
Play your decks.
Silver Glenn is relatively new. I don't know if you know who that is, but he does well, Matt, in the OCS. And he's probably been playing maybe only 2 years, but it's only on Gem. And he's done really well. He's one of the highest winning percentages. Here's a challenge for you, Matt. I qualified for the Pro Tour like 11 months in from playing Magic. I got demolished at the Pro Tour. The first one I went, it was that very first modern Pro Tour. I had absolutely, in Philadelphia, I had no chance. But it was probably like 11 months after tapping my first land. So, but I won I mean,
that's awesome. That's really impressive.
It's different than like PTQ to like Pro Tours.
No, that is more. That's definitely no question more impressive than it would be if I top 8 one of these events. I mean, yeah, no question. Because those are bigger fields and they're more. There's more just total brain power going into qualifying those slots. That's super impressive. I remember that tournament. It was a fun tournament, that first modern one.
Yeah, that was a wild one. It changed. It was supposed to be extended, and then I was like, oh, I'll just play like Stoneforge Mystic, and I know all these cards. And then I played against just stuff. It was like the same thing I was telling you before the show started with like the historics. Like, what is this form? I mean, I learned enough. It was a tournament, but there was stuff that was coming out of the woodwork. I was overmatched. I think I went 1-5.
Yeah. Well, one thing we can agree on, I'm gonna be having a lot of fun pushing for this. So if you see me in the queues trying different stuff and doing, I mean, I'm having just a blast with it. So whether that ends up being, whether I end up at this tier or that tier, Matt, it's gonna be so much fun. I'm just happy to be. I just hope I can, give as much to the community as I'm getting out of it, because I'm getting a lot of enjoyment out of it.
That's
Okay.
a great sentiment. Matt, let's get
Yeah.
some games sometime. I'm always down to play. I'm always putting up games. I get frustrated when they like just sit there in the red forever. I'm like, let's go. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's do some stuff back and forth
All
on
right,
Slack.
I was gonna say, I saw you randomly put up a Hoth deck today.
Yeah, it was bad. I do what Matt does. I was like, all right, I'll play both decrees and I'll stack and I'll lock everyone out of damage. And I was like, yeah, now I've got nothing to actually fight anything with, and it's just bad. You know, those
according to Taco Bill, Bill Kafer, people are scared to play you, Justin.
okay. People are scared. All right, let's move on from that.
Yeah. So I think we got
we have time. I don't know what people's time frames are like. I don't want to, Matt's coming on the show. I don't want to take. Usually we try to go to an hour, but we do have his deck from last month's OCS lined up.
Yeah, I'm here as long as you guys want me here, so don't worry about that. Let's hit it.
Okay, bring up the deck and let him talk about it. In it, so one thing that I like about this is that it's he's coming back to the game, and you built this from scratch. So this is your deck, and you're the one who put the Padmes in a large number and made the decision.
I was just staring at this was me in the lab.
Yeah, let's do a deck test.
So
we'll just make sure that we can.
So yeah, we have your deck up. So it's your hyperdrive deck. So
yeah,
let's go over it a little bit.
Yeah. So I mentioned earlier. I mean, I was kind of like wondering, how do I make this objective work, and kind of like what is it trying to do? And it was a good fit for me because it tells you what to do in terms of your game plan. You have to defend and fortify the junkyard, and like that same thing that makes it kind of easy to play for a newer player is also like a weakness of the deck, but so be it. There's a double-edged sword there, but it is a really good starting point for me to get into deck building, understanding, okay, and even things like why there's like sorry about the mess but not the and version, all that kind of stuff. Like even like the nuance, like as I played more and more, and like, do I need free ride and indoor celebration, or do I not, and all this other kind of stuff. It's been really fun. And then like not taking someone else's deck list as a kind of sacred cow of like, oh well, I have to do it this way. If they play the moisture farm, I gotta play the moisture farm. Whatever was going on in their deck list, like you just don't have to do that. And this is fun. So my approach is basically that you don't want to deploy a bunch of locations. You want to use what you've got in terms of one location that provides 3 if you occupy it, and you have the ability to pull the Boss Nass's chambers with Obi-Wan V, so you don't need to play 15 copies of Wisa. You can just play a couple. All this stuff. Use that to your advantage, and also when you have the ability to look through your deck every turn, if you have Obi-Wan you're draining, then like certain one-ofs become pretty valuable, and you can start to set yourself up with smoke screen and evac control and stuff like that, and what you think your opponent's up to. So I can talk about like the choices. I mean, I also talk about why, like what the deck's weaknesses are, like how to beat it. And I think I went 4-2 in OCS in July with this, and I probably would have went 5-1 if I didn't make a horrible misclick kind of type of mistake in one of the games. But that was mostly because people weren't really prepared to play against it, and didn't really have their solid footing. Like, so I probably would have gone 5-1 if I had played a little bit better, but I probably would have gone like 2-4 or 3-3 if the opponents kind of knew what was coming. But they just didn't. So that was fun to experience that. Just put people on the back foot. Oh, they're expecting to play against TRM. They play against this. It's like, oh, this is totally different.
It's definitely different. I mean, like the ratios are really different. Like the 4 Padme is something that's interesting, and the like non-V. I remember watching one of your games, and like Vader canceled Padme's text, and I was like, that's like flipped from what normally happens because it's non-V, and like two Jar Jars is cool. And then,
it's gone through different iterations. You really have to like make sure certain things happen. If you only have kind of one game plan, if all you can do is control the junkyard in the first 5 turns of the game, if that's all you can do, you better be good at it. So that's how you get to a place of like having 4 Padmes, and your deck's not really operating if you don't have OB in play, but you don't want to play a bunch of OBs and Padme's 3 Destiny. So eventually you get to a point where you're like, yeah, I can just play more Padme. And if I forfeit her, I'll play her again. If I have to discard it, who cares? But it's 3 Destiny. And you kind of take your lumps that way. But,
Yeah.
So you're saying you want to get Obi out fast, and you want to really stack the junk. So the reason for like no JCC, even though Obi could potentially pull it, is because it's like a liability.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
you
just
have you have
really
you have
your thought.
you have non-unique Jedi lightsabers, and so the dark side tech. So you have to you can play the JCC, and maybe it's right. I don't know, but you have to change which lightsabers you play, which is
Right.
fine. You can play
Okay.
the lightsaber that the General Kenobi pulls, whichever that icon is. You can play that one. It's functional. This is a slightly different approach, where actually the flexibility of the Jedi lightsaber is actually really nice when you have cards like Anakin, Obi, Qui-Gon, and Mace, and you have this lightsaber that can go, and Yoda, and your lightsaber can actually go on all those. And I find that people underrate how hard it is to find the card that you're hoping to pull if you're not pulling it turn one. So we all know, like, your turn one pulls, they're going to be there, or if they're not, you'll know where they are next turn. But like your lights, your weapons, and other stuff, your like squadron assignments, the card like I typically hate because it's so hard to actually find those cards in the reserve deck. So the Jedi lightsabers help with that a lot, like more than you think, because you actually just you find the pairing so much more.
Right. Yeah. The problem with some of the Sci-Tor decks is like when you're running like, oh, why don't people play like an Obi-Wan's lightsaber? It's like, well, why do people play Anakin's and Luke's? Because they're more universal already.
Mm-hmm.
You're right on with that, because like people aren't playing like one of Obi-Wan's, one of Anakin. If Anakin said deploy on Anakin, no one would play it. You know.
Yeah. The good thing, and as Watto gets more popular, this is definitely a deck to look to. I mean, if you lose to Watto with this deck, I think it's time to hang him up.
Time to hang it up.
Like if you can't, like, this deck, it's just kind of anyway. Yeah.
So and they lose their game text, and you're just winning all your battles. And
like I think you'd be fine. I think you would be a favorite against Watto if Obi-Wan didn't cancel what their deck does. But you also have 6 ways. You have 4 Padme and 2 Obi, and the Obi says they're. So I mean, it's just kind of stupid. So anyway, it's like, if all you want to do is beat Watto, then play this 60. But it's really hard. The problem is that ISB is really good. ISB can just like fast deploy to the forest clearing and the landing, whatever the docking bay is called, and then on Endor, and they're actually like racing you really fast. And the problem is you can't. Your deck's not really good at both playing off of Tatooine and fortifying the junkyard. And so the problem with, and you also don't deploy to space very well until you flip. So there's like the structural problem against ISB is one that like looms pretty large. And I've beaten ISB, but mostly because the opponent didn't understand the tactics of it, that they're supposed to set the force drains up first, and then eventually they can try to take the outskirts and modify my drain, or try to take the junkyard eventually, or just ignore it. But that they can establish a really solid game plan that's racing and leave me alone in the junkyard. But when the people have tried to be like, oh, let me put Blizzard 2 at the junkyard, like I'm kind of set up to be able to think about what that looks like, and I'm probably going to be okay.
You've got smoke screen, you've got like a lot of red cards.
Like you perimeter scan the trample, and you do your thing, and you're probably going to be okay. It's when they if they put 2 troopers at the forest clearing, and 2 troopers over here, and a spy at Boss Nass's chambers, and a ship at Tatooine. That's a much harder game to win.
Right.
So one thing, if you're trying to learn, that's the way to beat this deck. It's not so much to try to. I mean, obviously, like if I'm weak at the junkyard for a turn, sure, go hammer me at the junkyard. Yeah. But you're probably better served spreading, because this deck can't spread very well. Maybe I drew my mace to put with your guys. I mean, maybe not. But it's just going to be really hard for me to be doing that and making sure I can hold the junkyard. So anyway, so just a little bit of what works and what doesn't.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm interested in the space package a lot. I know you have the Queen's Royal ship. That's really good. Not a lot of people play the Acclimator outside of a lot of decks. Like, what made you choose the Acclimator over something like, I don't know, something else? Because you can play it.
Not much, right?
Yeah, there's
one thing is that people don't. So I mean, people don't. I don't know why I'm making it accusatory. I guess talk about. Let me just put this in a positive. The way I think about it is like the first capital ship you have is really valuable when your whole plan is to over deploy to an exterior site and then eventually deploy to a planet site related to that exterior site. Well, it turns out like structurally a capital starship helps you, and then it's also just like the fact that it adds to attrition,
Right,
and
both
lets
kind
you
of-
kind of it lets you hang pretty tough, and it makes you pretty annoying to battle. I think you want a second ship. They're actually good to lose in the early game since the your Weir's leaving can retrieve them. So I like playing a second one. I think it's the best second one. I think you want a capital starship to be able to shuttle guys up, and all of a sudden like Anakin jumps up from an over deployed junkyard they've given up on. Anakin jumps up into space. Like you're fine with that. That sounds great, right? So I think like that kind of thing is important.
Okay.
That's cool. You certainly put a lot of like thought into all of this. Like, you went 4-2, which is really pretty impressive. But like, it's not like you messed up on like the list. You're like, oh, you thought you could play this card, you couldn't actually play. And Hyperdrive has those restrictions. Like you put a lot of thought into the deck, and like the capital thing is really that's smart.
It's funny you mentioned that. I mean, the first game I played with the deck, I drew the Ahsoka. That's a Jedi from not episode 1. I couldn't play it, and so yes, did I make those mistakes? Yes.
That's
right.
fair.
Those things still happen with like especially like the restriction stuff. Like
I
was going to say guy or.
I seem to remember a certain world champion playing a Qui-Gon with lightsaber in his Diplo. So even world champs make those kind of mistakes.
I've showed up to many a match when I forgot to put the defensive shields in the deck. So you got.
Oh yeah, I did that. I did that the other day, and I was like, oh, let's just go with it.
That's probably a mistake you're not very likely to make in a paper tournament. Just leave your defensive shields at home. But on Gemp, it's pretty easy to do.
Right, or like counting effects. Like I've definitely had just 4 effects that I want to start, and then being like, oh, man, this deck doesn't work. Like I don't.
Or oops, I forgot my walkling. Yeah, all that stuff happens.
I was gonna say, like, I played a game on Gemp last week against a player. He's playing OA. I'm playing CCT Flip. He forgot his Japanese virtual, so he can play solo.
And CCT is weird. I definitely built CCT with like the wrong device. Like I have the mismatch, like frozen cap.
Oh yeah. That was funny. You have to just laugh. I mean, what are you gonna do? I played one game. My opponent played Blizzard 4, and I couldn't figure out why my perimeter scan wasn't lighting up. And then I click into my perimeter scan. Like, do you want to cancel? Do you want to cancel a pure card with your perimeter scan non-V? And I go, I probably didn't had that perimeter scan. So I click into it. It says, okay, I can use one force to glance at any one card which is face down at a location. Okay, that might be useful. I can use a force to glance at a card and put an infantry mine. Okay, cancel probe telemetry. Yeah, I probably didn't intend to add that one to my deck, but I did.
It's amazing, like for such an elegantly designed game, like some of the cards in Star Wars and also Magic, like they're so absurd. Like there's a card from Premiere, I don't know what it is, but it's like look at your opponent's hand for 20 seconds. Someone was gonna like bring out like
Scanning crew.
The scanning crew? No, it's like radar scanner or something.
No, there's light side.
Like, put the Tusken Raiders in, but it says it literally has a time frame on it, like on the printed card. Maybe someone in the chat can mention what it is.
Yeah, I think it's radar scanner.
Yeah, well, Scanning Crew says for 10 seconds, and then you can move a Rebel, which is kind of like it. In the first few sets of Magic and the first few sets of Star Wars, the text of the card, it was more like telling a friend what the card does than it was like formal like logic of programming language. Nowadays, you read a card in Magic or Star Wars V, it looks like a programming language where it's very like, oh, here's what it does. Back in the day, it was like you were kind of describing from memory what a card did, and that's how like all the old school Magic cards and Star Wars cards read.
Right, absolutely right. Yeah, and then we all like. I'm actually kind of ashamed that I don't remember the card. Tusken Scavengers.
Someone in the chat's mentioning that you got to say Star Destroyer and have the card go to your use pile, and then you get an effect. That one's fun.
Like Star Destroyer is like you have to play it, so you're gonna play it mutely and then yell, or you're just gonna say the word twice.
And why doesn't GIMP require you to type it into the chat? Is that hard to code?
I was going to say, maybe it's not. Is Star Destroyer even in GAMP at this point?
Who knows? It used to be that there used to be a couple of things that would crash the game, like all too easy when
Beggar.
it froze, it would just immediately crash.
It
So you'd be
froze
like,
carbon
froze, or it would
fiber?
actually froze it. Yeah.
Beggar right now is crashing GAMP, so people don't play Beggar.
Beggar's
Yeah.
shielded, right?
Yep.
But it's still out there.
Beggar shielded with the frozen acid. It's funny. There was a card I played ROPS this year at Worlds, and there was a card that wasn't programmed that because I just played on Jump to test. I didn't play any like real life testing. And Worlds comes, and I just like forgot the card existed.
What card?
It was the new Captain Kurgi, the one that looks at a guy. It's good now, but it wasn't coded like rolling up to Worlds. It was a good card for ROPS.
Yeah, if someone shows up to the next tournament I play and they start like they go like, okay, my dark side's tractor beam, my light side is the Jabba's Palace Leia. I'm gonna be like, oh shit, I don't know what these cards do.
Some people only play Premier and New Hope. Wow, Stevie to the Heezy, good for you.
Yeah.
All right, so let's wrap it up pretty soon. We're running a little bit down. So what do we got?
We got one thing actually. I believe Chris Kelly has told us to spoil something tonight.
Oh yeah, you want to handle that, Dan?
Yeah. So we we have a set 13 card that Chris Kelly wanted us to spoil. That card is the Executor Control Station V. That one, so it's in so it's up there, so we can actually read that. So yeah, it's
while you're still here, Gigabit Executors deploy -7 except to Fondor.
Thank you.
4 strain -1 to initiate battle. So 4 strain -1 site, that's good. Add a battle destiny for light side if they get there. That's been seen before. So a cheap executor is pretty cool.
Okay, I don't have it in front of me. Read it again. Is it still one dark icon and no light icon?
No, it's two dark icons.
Okay.
While you're Imperial here, so it's similar to the Home 1 docking bay. Or Home 1 war room, excuse me. While you're Imperial here, Dagobah Executor, so you don't get a ridiculously cheap flagship executor. Dagobah Executors deploy -7 except to Fondor. 4 strain -1 here. If you initiate a battle here, add 1 destiny. That's the light side text. So the light side text is other than 4 strain -1 is sort of so a Twix that you could slip sliding away.
And
okay, cool.
Get a cheaper executor.
Cheaper executor. That's kind
of.
So
it's gonna bring your original executor down to, or executor as I would say, down to 8.
Down to 8, and then you could combine it with alert my Star Destroyer for
Piet. So that would be what, 10 total?
Plus 1.
That's gonna be 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
9, you get your Piet, and yeah, that's a reasonable price. It's maybe a little bit more than some of the Bestman players are accustomed to paying, but it's
that's a good point. Yeah.
It's not bad though. It hits your first. You could theoretically do it early in the game. Like you could do it on turn 2 if you want to do it, which is good. I played the Executor recently for 15 in my Bestman ISB.
So I know there's pullers for mobile hallways, but there's not necessarily a puller just for any mobile site, right? So
yeah, this would be stuck in your deck or start it or.
It doesn't have Vader in the text.
No.
There's no
Vader in the text.
Yeah, there's really no way to fish it out yet.
Okay, so in thinking in terms of how this shows up, it's probably part of a starting configuration with a slip sliding away. And maybe you're thinking.
No, it's 8. Yeah, it's 8 because the ship's -1, Piet's -1. Okay, that's cheap. Cheap. There's a Commander Garrett pulls the site.
Oh.
And he's commander, so you could Piet for him. But then how do you get?
Well, you throw Piet at the site. You get and maybe now.
That's not bad.
Yeah, you always have Death Squadron Assault to pull the Executor if you need it.
Right.
So then you use Piet. So it's a new pull chain.
New pull chain. That's exciting. It's always exciting to see how these things will work or not work, especially the pull chains.
So
too
you
much.
ba-
There's things with Piet that don't work too.
so you could basically run quad drive yards, play this
And
with slip sliding away, quad drive yards V, Endor shield, and security precautions.
that's pretty clean.
Yeah.
The dark side Bespin system will see less play.
Well, we can only hope. That's definitely one of the. Yeah, that's one of the most powerful cards. The Dana
Yeah.
must never be allowed to leave the city again.
15 down to 2 is big.
15 down to free. Originally,
Yeah.
remember?
Or two in their shield, whichever they choose. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's definitely it. All right, I'm going to ask the chat for any final questions, and then we are going to do. Dan, do you have the spelling challenge ready? We kind of had to flip it.
Yeah.
And then we have a couple parting gifts.
I'm excited about the gifts and less excited about the spelling challenge, but that's probably.
Well, that doesn't. There was all the. I'm a highly competitive guy stuff. Was
Yeah.
that all bullshit before? Because it made.
Yeah, I think you talked yourself into this one.
Yeah. Well, part of being competitive is knowing your lane. Knowing where and spelling Star Wars cards just ain't it.
That's fair.
Oh, okay. Fair
But
enough.
hey, we'll give it a shot.
Well, I'm going to say this: we've only had 2 people successfully complete the spelling challenge.
All right, third tonight.
Hopefully. So, I'm going to tell you right now. This one's a pod racer. I'm not going to ask you to spell pod racer.
Okay.
Gotta give him a little something. Okay.
Spell the word pod racer.
Yeah. So just go ahead and close down your Twitch or shut down Twitch for a second.
Yep. I'm gonna hit Command D, which gives me my desktop, and then I'll bring our. Okay, got it. Cleared everything.
Okay. It's up there. Your spelling challenge is Teamto Puentes Pod Racer.
I wouldn't get it.
Can you use it in a sentence?
Teamto Puentes Pod Racer is the card I'm asking you to spell.
Teamto.
Damn, that was a terrible.
Now I remember this card. It's not quite as good as the Sepulpa's Pod Racer. It was sort of a mystery why you would ever use it, and I remember having this card in my collection, and I still have it. So you've chosen a.
Yeah, hold on. The chat is also talking that Dan's pronunciation is.
I always knew this card as Teamto Peleges. Is like in my mind.
Peleges? Okay. Teamto Peleges Pod
Okay.
Racer. Okay. I thought for some reason I thought the G was silent when I was watching the movie.
No, it's okay. I know
You gave him a silent G.
Okay.
Well,
so
I helped him out there.
No, I in my mind it was Teamto Peleges. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Teemto. Have I been dinged yet?
You're good so far.
Good. Okay.
All right. Palleges.
I'll give
Sounds
you
like
one. I'll give you a free one.
Like respect for the double letter.
Yeah.
That wasn't there. You used your knowledge of Star Wars cards to be like, all right, let's just double all the letters. Like Yulf Lauren is like.
So it's Pa, Gle. Hold on. I'm
Okay,
gonna go off of Bill's pronunciation.
I gave my best effort.
Pa, Gla, Pa, Ga, Less.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So that's a card. So here's where I got it wrong. Growing up, you just picked the pronunciation and you kind of stuck with it, and you never bothered to. Nobody was there to correct you. So in my mind, I had a certain way of saying it. Turns out that's not what it actually was, and so I was doomed from the start. But that was fun.
You can definitely protest.
I'm gonna. You get another try. You got the first name. What?
All right.
All right, yeah, give him another try.
I'm giving you another try because my pronunciation of the word sucks.
I'll try to fail faster this time.
You got the first name right. I'll tell you that much.
Okay. Oh, you want a second attempt at the same card? Oh no, I give up. I throw in the towel. I'm
You
done.
want to?
Or we can call it.
No, yeah, it's all good. I don't know.
You wanna know-
I don't know why my pronunciation is way off. I know at this point it's off.
Okay,
I'm good.
let's give him another card.
Oh, boy.
Okay.
Okay, Bed Quadraneros.
Oh, we're going all pod racers.
Oh boy.
That's what I have pulled up.
Can you say it one more time?
Ben Quadraneros.
Okay. So Ben Ben.
Okay.
Is it so far so good?
Yeah.
Okay. Quadraneros.
Quad in Eros.
Q. Quateros.
Off by a little bit. It was
Yeah.
a D and an E, an AROS. Yeah. Nice
Well,
try though.
Okay, that one was good.
All right.
That was fun. All right, so we do have some gifts for Matt for coming
Yes.
on and also kind of having a big imprint and being really energetic with their game. So we don't have any visuals of them or anything, but we do have the marketing team getting some of the cool swag. One thing I will say with the swag that the marketing team does, it's pretty cool. Like they're able to produce like some high level stuff. So we are going to do a coffee mug or beer stein, whichever you prefer, with the logo on it, which is pretty cool. I have a few of those, and they're nice. We are going to do a playmat, which is pretty cool, like a high quality playmat with the Star Wars CCG logo.
Nice.
Everyone remembers their first like Magic shirt, so we have some cool Star Wars shirts with some action. We're gonna try to put some a cool card on it.
Awesome.
And we've also got some donations for decks. Now, I'll preface this because we sort of thought that maybe you didn't have a collection as vast, so we were going to donate the Hyperdrive deck in full and a set of shields. Now, if you've already got it, we can donate it to someone else, or you can donate it to a friend that you maybe want to bring into the game.
No, hey, that's super generous, awesome. Let's pay it forward. Let's see if we can locate a player who's interested in that deck, may not have.
And that would that'd be cool. We were going to make the entire deck, and we just sort of thought that your imprint was completely sort of jammed, and maybe you had some old Premiere stuff, but you've got the cards. So yeah, let's find someone. Maybe we can tie that into a need-based thing, or however you want to do it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Super generous, and just totally ties in with this recurring theme of everyone being super welcoming. And it'll be fun to help to talk someone else who receives that deck through. Here's what I've learned about Hyperdrive. I gave you the tip of the iceberg tonight. I can probably talk someone's ear off about Hyperdrive, so look forward to doing that.
That would be sick to to stream, to be honest, like to see that on a YouTube, like kind of like we have now, but like with the backdrop being like Jump, and you're like someone through how to play it and like decision making process. I actually think that's something that's sort of missing in Star Wars a little bit with Jump, like talking through stuff. We had a sort of minor controversy a couple of years ago about like people kind of playing behind a screen together and learning stuff, and we're kind of past that now. But I think some of that would be cool to have more of that like streaming stuff on the games. I think that's great.
Yeah, I'm happy. Yeah, I've learned a few things with content production over the years too that I'm happy to bring to bear as much or as little as folks have an appetite for. I wrote a short little article about on a forum about Star Wars, just little tips and tricks kind of thing, just to kind of keep those muscles warm, because that's one of the ways I learn is trying to write something down in a way that's clear. I always learn something about the thing I'm writing about, so I kind of do that as part of my learning process. So yeah, this stuff's all fun. So I'm looking forward to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, nice. So let's figure out a way to get that deck to someone. But yeah, definitely coffee mug your way, playmat, and we'll get one of those cool shirts to you. And Dan, you got his address, right? Or we have that?
Yeah, we have his address.
We'll do that offline, obviously.
Yeah, much appreciated.
Oh,
all right, awesome. So let me just chat is pretty much good. Yeah.
I think guys, we're good there. Just so we do have an update. Drew was able to win that game, so he's now 10-0 this month.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
So
know.
Can I change my miss to a hit?
you know what? I'm telling you, I'm
Probably should. Drew's crushing it. Can we change the bright? Is Drew registered for the
Good question.
for the Texas event? Because he could be coming off of a 10-0 OCS, probably feeling pretty good.
Oh yeah, don't forget to bring your Navar Yalnals to that
Right.
event.
Kill all the spies. Someone should just play like 10 of each.
Yeah, Drew. So Drew
Winner,
is
winner
registered.
He's registered.
He
Drew's the
is
favorite.
registered.
I'm gonna say Drew's the favorite.
That's fair.
Logical choice.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so that's going to wrap it up for tonight. I want to thank our guest tonight, Mr. Matt Sperling. Want to thank Justin again for coming on and being my guest host. Tomorrow we're not going to have Dan Plays. We're going to come back with that next week on Tuesday when Robbie goes ahead and announces all of the pods for the Texas Mini Worlds.
Cool.
And then we'll be Justin and I will actually be back next week when we have.
Yeah, it's my final show. On my final guest. My guest run is over. And
Really?
Hopefully, Isos is just.
I think we can get you back on. We got. You know what? We'll get you back on.
All right. Well, for now, last one
For
for the.
Okay, so yeah, and Justin and I will have Jared Napolitano on next week, so that's going to be interesting. He's a big history buff.
Play, so that'll be kind of fun.
Yep.
See all the years of the worlds for the last 26 years, 24 years, something like that.
That's insane.
All right, take care,
everybody. Take care.